Dear viewers and participants of this event, organized by the Lithuanian Embassy to South Africa in cooperation of the South African Jewish Museum. I'm speaking to you from Vilna or Vilnius in Lithuanian capital, but I'm thrilled by the prospect of seeing you on South African soil very soon. A few days ago, I received the letters of credence from the Lithuanian President Gitanas Nausėda, and will arrive in mid-December to take up my position as the new ambassador of Lithuania to South Africa. It's highly symbolic that I will be arriving from the country from which many ancestors of yours came decades ago when Hanukkah lights are lit. With the help of Lithuania's embassy excellent staff, I will do my utmost to strengthen the political, economic and cultural ties between Lithuania and South Africa, enhance contacts between organizations, institutions and people of both countries, as well as increase visibility of Lithuania in South Africa. I am aiming to use my abilities and previous work experience in different ethnical, cultural, religious environment to carry out these duties successfully. And I am convinced that the success will depend to a high extent on cooperation and assistance of the local Jewish community, which serves as a bridge between Lithuania and South Africa. Today's virtual meeting is the second in the series of embassies event of the Year of Vilna Gaon and the history of Lithuanian Jews. The anniversary of Vilna Gaon is a powerful opportunity for us in Lithuania, not only to explore the life of pious genius from Vilnius, but also to commemorate the victims of the Jewish genocide in Lithuania by revisiting the tragic pages of history, as well as to remember the significant contribution to the prosperity and well-being of the people of Lithuania of old and modern times. And the anniversary also presents an opportunity to once again realize the immensity of the void left behind by the loss that Lithuania suffered when it lost its Jewish citizens. Firstly, due to the emigration from Lithuania during the 20th century, and when Jews were murdered by the German Nazi occupiers and their Lithuanian collaborators during the World War II. 7 decades later, within the framework of commemorative events, and despite the limitations caused by coronavirus, we have seen so many beautiful initiatives and projects implemented by government, state, public institutions and NGOs. Thanks to an intensive traditional broadcast, print media and social media campaign, people of all ages from all walks of life in Lithuania have become better informed about the rich culture, history and life of Lithuanian Jews. We can say that the element of the Litvak history has been brought back into the narrative of Lithuanians' historical memory. Tonight, excellent speakers will reminisce about the events of the South African Jewish past and ways to revive and preserve Jewish heritage in Lithuania. I believe it is an important attempt to help build a bridge of understanding between Lithuanians and Litvaks, between the past, the present, and the future. I wish you all a fruitful discussion. Thank you for your attention.
Lithuanian Jewish community. Also, I have to congratulate you getting a wonderful new ambassador, Mr. Dainis Junevičius, whose portfolio in the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was the Jewish question. And we are thankful very much, Mr. Junevičius, for cooperation. And we were always very friendly, and all our problems were solved, not all of them, but that what was in capacity of our ambassador Junevičius were solved very quickly and without any delay. The heritage of the Jewish community is one of the most important thing for one of most important issue for our Jewish community. You know that we are very small, about 5,000 people, and that is what's left from the World War II. So mostly what we have our heritage, and really to preserve the heritage. And that does not mean only buildings, that means our traditions, our language, Yiddish language, our customs, our Jewish life. That is the main aim of our Jewish community, and that's what we are trying to do so good as we can. Sure, being so small, our possibilities are also limited. Therefore, we have very nice cooperation with different organizations such as Lost Shtetl, which was founded by Mr. Sergei Kanovich. We are working with other organizations, and this cooperation is useful for both sides. We help each other with ideas, with support. I also would like to thank the Embassy of Lithuania in South Africa. You did a big job to bring us closer to many Litvaks who left Lithuania very, very many years ago. Mostly they are the ancestors, the descendants of the people who left Lithuania. And not many of them really visited Lithuania, and therefore sometimes the impression about today very modern and developed country is not so good as it should be. So first of all, I invite everybody after Corona, after COVID finish, to come to visit our nice country, to come to visit our nice community. And from our side, we'll really do everything to inform you and to help you with the knowledges of Lithuanian history, of Lithuanian Litvak's heritage, so much as we can. So thank you for letting me speak. Thank you that I am invited here, and I hope one day to see you physically, to meet you physically, not only via Zoom. Thank you so much.
Good evening, everybody. I hope you can all hear me and see me. My name is Gavin Morris. I'm the director of the South African Jewish Museum, a position I've held since 2012. I also am a South African Jew with Litvak legacy and heritage. If you bear with me for 1 second, I'll share my screen and I will start my talk. Good evening. As I said, my name is Gavin Morris. I'm the director of the South African Jewish Museum. And I've entitled my talk today, Evolution from Litvak to South African Jew. As the title suggests, I'll speak about how Lithuanian Jews, known as Litvaks, settled in South Africa and evolved into a distinct community with its own character and traditions. Over the generations, the South African Jewish community has settled into South African society and developed a unique South African Jewish identity that is informed by its Litvak origins, but is recognizable and distinctly South African, influenced by the local culture and environment. South Africa has one of the most homogeneous Jewish communities in the diaspora. This homogeneity has long been a feature of the community and the source of its strength and cohesion. This is due to the fact that the vast majority of South African Jews have at least some Litvak ancestry. Smaller communities of English, German, and to a slightly lesser degree, Sephardi Jews have been subsumed into the broader Litvak-influenced South African Jewish identity. To understand this, it is necessary to understand how so many Lithuanian Jews ended up in South Africa. Between 1850 and the First World War, 40 million people would leave Europe for the New World. Among them were 40,000 Lithuanian Jews who ended up in South Africa. The arrival of the Litvak Jews would forever change the nature of the then small Jewish community of South Africa. The primary driver of this Litvak immigration was the ascension to power of Tsar Alexander III in 1882. Under Alexander's rule, anti-Jewish laws and increasing anti-Semitism sparked a mass exodus of Jews from Eastern Europe. The timing of this event coincided with two other factors that led Jews to the bottom of Africa. Industrialization had made travel safer, easier, and more accessible than ever before. And the discovery of gold in Johannesburg in 1887 led to a rush of fortune seekers from across the world, Jews amongst them. While most Litvaks who left Eastern Europe ended up as part of the larger Jewish migration to North America, those that came from the shtetls around Kovno or Kaunas in Lithuania made their way to South Africa. They were a product of chain migration. Early Litvak arrivals in South Africa sent back positive reports which spread by word of mouth. Their migration was also helped by a already established route to South Africa. These Litvak Jews would travel via England, briefly finding shelter at the Poor Jewish Temporary Shelter in London, and from there onto the ships of the Union Castle shipping line, which brought them to South Africa. Some 20,000 future South African Jews would pass through this shelter on their way to a new life in Africa. Life in South Africa at the time was vastly different to the society that they had left behind. They found themselves in a rapidly developing country with a growing economy. The ready availability of cheap, unskilled labor in the form of the disenfranchised African community and the arriving Litvaks' classification as whites meant they immediately had advantages that were unavailable to them back home in the shtetls of Lithuania. While it is true that many, if not most of these new arrivals were poor, they were better off than the local black population. They had access to a support network. At first, this support came from the pre-existing, small but affluent Jewish community made up primarily of English and German Jews. Latter arrivals would receive support from those Litvaks that had arrived before them and who had been successful in settling in South Africa. Often the support would be in the form of readily available and reasonable loans. This gave the new arrivals access to capital in order to help them build their new life in their new land. Very soon, the arriving Litvaks totally outnumbered the pre-existing Jewish community. In the cities, the arriving Litvaks gravitated towards each other, forming congregations, living in the same neighborhoods, and engaging in their shared cultural and religious practices. Here they were able to speak Yiddish, pray in a familiar fashion, and eat their traditional foods. Others, who dispersed into the countryside, similarly gravitated towards their compatriot co-religionists. Soon, Jewish communities were popping up all over South Africa. Just as in Lithuania, Jews were now a feature of the landscape, albeit in much smaller numbers. The Litvak Jews had arrived in South Africa. They had left Lithuania with the hope of a new and more prosperous life, and they were now making this a reality. With their white skin, access to capital, and a network of support, these Shtetl Jews soon found themselves among the more privileged and upwardly mobile of South Africans. In short, they had improved their lot in life. Even the anti-Semitism that they faced, and there was plenty, particularly in the 1930s, was not as dangerous or debilitating as the anti-Semitism that they had left behind. The first generation of Litvak South Africans, however, remained outsiders, foreigners in a foreign land. It was their children, born in South Africa, that fully changed the nature and impressions of Litvak Jews in South Africa. Their parents were able to provide them with opportunities far superior to those that they would have had they been born in the Shtetls. Soon Yiddish was replaced by English as the language in the home. Litvaks raised their children to speak English as it was the language of commerce and study in South Africa. Their upward mobility and the absence of any barriers to education and opportunity in this nascent country meant that the professions were readily available and achievable for the second generation. Soon, Jews were entering the professional classes. In fact, Jews were to become disproportionately represented in medicine and law, two professions that were well regarded and held in high esteem. In commerce, too, the second generation succeeded, building on their parents' early efforts. By the early 20th century, Litvak Jews, now most second or third generation, were comfortably part of South African society, present in all the social strata. They spoke the local white languages. They attended secular schools. They took part in the popular sports. They were already very different from their cousins who had remained in Lithuania. Theirs was a totally different lived experience. But there was still a lasting impact of the religion, culture, and traditions of their parents. Shuls and cheders were established wherever there was a sufficient number of Jews. Their manner of observance was still inspired by the orthodoxy of the Vilna Gaon, rather than the growing Hasidic tradition found elsewhere in the diaspora. This tradition has remained unique to South African Jewry. Even today, despite many South African Jews living a secular lifestyle, orthodoxy remains the preeminent form of Jewish observance. Despite these radical changes and the diverging fortunes of the Litvak Jews in South Africa, compared to those who remained in Lithuania, there continued to be a connection between the communities. Religiously observant families would return to the Shtetls to find suitably pious spouses for their children. Newly formed congregations would send for a rabbi from Lithuania to minister in their newly built synagogues. Families would continue to write to each other, sharing news of births, deaths, marriages, and life in general. The Litvak experience in South Africa, however, was not a bed of roses. Many arrived poor and remained that way. Others were drawn into a life of crime in order to survive. And there was a rising antipathy towards them from the non-Jewish white South African society. The rapid influx of a poor, noticeably different underclass of Jews quickly changed the local perception of Jews. Accustomed to the small, urbane, and well-off English and German Jews of the pre-Litvak South African Jewish community, this new type of Jew was not nearly as welcome in polite society. The first legislation to attempt to stop the Litvak immigration had already begun by the beginning of the 20th century. This took the form of the Immigration Restriction Act in 1902, which limited entry to Yiddish-speaking immigrants. Further government acts and restrictions would follow, and the Quota Act of 1930 effectively put an end to all Jewish migration to South Africa from Lithuania. World War II would soon follow. The horrors of the Holocaust had a catastrophic impact on Lithuania's Jews. 90% of the community were murdered, effectively severing all remaining family ties between the generations of Litvak Jews in South Africa and their family that had remained in Lithuania. Following the Holocaust, with Lithuania under communist rule and apartheid-era South Africa firmly embedded in the Western sphere of influence, the few remaining Jews of Lithuania and their cousins in South Africa grew further apart. Today, the two communities are distinctly different. 100 years of separate and disparate lived experiences means that there is little that remains to connect the two communities. But it is undeniable that Litvak traditions form the basis of the South African Jewish identity. The South African Jewish community remains the largest and most cohesive Litvak diaspora. Since the fall of communism, there's been growing interest among South African Jews in their family history in Lithuania. Many undertake trips to Lithuania to explore their roots. And at the South African Jewish Museum, talks and exhibitions related to Lithuanian Jewish history are popular and well supported. Events such as this one tonight serves to further and strengthen this interest. And maybe generations later, South African Jews may just yet reconnect with their Lithuanian Jewish heritage. Thank you. And we'll go on to the next speaker.
I think I can start, right? Hello, everyone. Let me start share my screen. Okay. So, hello once again. My name is Milda Jakulytė, and I am Chief Curator of the Museum the Lost Shtetl here in Lithuania. And I will start my presentation of our project by introducing you to our team. So the Šeduva Jewish Memorial Fund was founded in 2012, and currently we are a team of 8 people. One of the fund's tasks is to build a museum, and the female part of our team are all historians, curators, a scriptwriter, and an educator, and we are working on museum's content and future activity. We aren't working alone. Assisting us are teams of architects and interior designers, including the Finnish architect Rainer Maklamaki, who also designed the Museum of the History of Polish Jews, also known as Polin. And the interior of the museum is being redesigned by Ralph Appelbaum Associates, the well-known New York-based firm. We also have advisors, scientists and researchers studying Eastern European Jewry from around the world, consult us on our work creating core exhibition. So that everybody understands the geographical challenges of the project of the town of Šeduva is located in the central part of Lithuania, not far away from the highway connecting Vilnius and Riga, almost midway between the two capitals. And we are surrounded by popular tourist destinations in the Baltic countries. So when we become free to travel again, I hope you will make that journey and visit us. Zooming in closer, the museum is situated at the edge of the town near the Jewish cemetery. And the project is a Jewish cultural and heritage revival project. Since 2012, we have been creating a commemorative complex which includes a multi-faced slice of Jewish life and the Jewish history in the town of Šeduva. The project includes the old Jewish cemetery where the dead have been buried since the time of the settlement of the Jewish community in 18th century. And 3 Holocaust sites where the communal life of the shtetl ended tragically. Situated in the time between these 2 milestone events, The Lost Shtetl Museum will open its door in 2023. The museum has a planned floor space of 3,000 square meters with 2,000 square meters of exhibition space. And the museum's architecture and the exhibits are designed to form a coherent whole, working together to tell the same story. Viewed from outside, the building appears as both. So it's as entire village and also as a one building. It is important to us that what we do be interested to the town community, and the town's pollinational and multicultural history be important to the people living there, here and now. And we are pleased that the building these kinds of bridges is succeeding. And it is important to us engage local residents and students in the unveiling the monuments and marking Holocaust dates, to encourage them to take interest in the history of the town and to honor the memory of the Jews of Šeduva. Another example, after 2 summers of archaeological work using ground-penetrating radar to look at the Schulhof, the current marketplace, we now know the location and dimensions of 2 synagogues in Šeduva. Following reconstruction of the marketplace, the town plans to mark the sites of the former synagogues. And the event which has moved me personally most is the return of stolen matzavot to the Jewish cemetery. And we are overjoyed that the people of today are not afraid of the mistakes made by their parents and are returning that which doesn't belong to them without any shame at all. And in response, we have started erecting a memorial in the cemetery from gravestones, for which, unfortunately, we will likely never know the burial sites from which they've come. An important part of this is not just the monuments are being returned, but in some cases, we are able to connect them with the family stories. The idea to build a museum arose in 2015, so it is still a very young initiative. We had an intention of creating a museum of the history of the shtetls and Šeduva shtetl specifically, and therefore the idea is very site-oriented. For us, it is important to tell the story of the shtetls in a compelling way through the exhibition. At the same time, it is equally important to us not just to recover the history, but also memory of it, and to pass on what we think is the legacy created by the Jews in the shtetls to the present and coming generations. Initially, we had very little to work with: research, items, knowledge. We had no objects, and we started to look around to see if we could find something. We discovered some items from Šeduva preserved in museums in Lithuania and abroad, and we are planning to borrow those. We're also making facsimiles, replicas of the family objects you have, and perhaps the most exciting of these we have received as outright donations. Over the years, our team has conducted research trips to meet descendants of the Jews of Šeduva living in Israel and the Republic of South Africa. We have filmed interviews, we have re-photographed personal albums. All this information we have collected has allowed us to reconstruct, to some extent, the rich and diverse life of the shtetl. As you might imagine, a great deal of archival information was used to come up with the concept for the exhibition. But even so, the main source of themes and stories for the museum was the people who once lived in Šeduva. And what we have found during our research is intangible. It is letters, the correspondence between your parents and grandparents, the biographies, autobiographies, memories, and stories you, dear Šeduvians, shared with us. To us, this is the richest content. These are our most precious items in the exhibition. Together with our team of designers, we are creating a scenography which tells the stories and reveals them in a specifically designed environment. We think it is crucial to use this material because we want our visitors not to hear the voice of curators, but the voice of people who lived at that time in that place. And the entire exhibition is formed out of pieces and fragments, but the human voice suffuses the narrative and glues it all together. It is also important to us in creating the exhibition to stay within the bounds of the time period and not to show what lied ahead. People living at that time, let's call it the interwar period, could not foresee the coming destruction of their community. So we, as we created the exhibition, didn't foreshadow the era with our day knowledge of what came after. The Holocaust defines what happens to the Shtetls and the Jews. But it's important that our visitors will explore the exhibition and view it in and of itself, not through the lens of Holocaust. How did the community react to the challenges of modernization, to the appearance of the new state, the development of political theories and political consciousness, the aspiration to create one's own country, and all the other challenges, including personal ones, which arose between the members of the different generations within the community? Another thing about our exhibit is that we are presenting average people. They are simple town dwellers with their personal dreams and desires, with their joys and lack of opportunity, trying to forge a better life for themselves and their families. They weren't heroes, they weren't famous. They were men and women living together in the challenging time and experiencing change. For most of us, it's easy to identify with this. Most of us are living this kind of life with work, home, and children. And sometimes our wishes come true, and sometimes they don't. We are also living in challenging times, and we can learn how they lived and managed to cope with it. We have divided exhibition into 9 galleries, dictated by the architecture of the museum and the topics explored. The first theme is the emergence of the Shtetl, its main components, and its development up until the end of First World War. The topics after that focus on the social life of the Shtetl in the interwar period, as it is took place in the public spaces and specifically on a market square. The challenges facing the youth, which is much more difficult to discover and it's little known to outsiders. And finally, religion. There follow in chronological order the 2 occupations of Lithuania. The first Soviet occupation, which uprooted social structures and existing relationships, and which laid the foundations for the total annihilation in the second occupation by the Nazis. Telling the story of the Shtetl doesn't end for us with the Holocaust. So the last part of the exhibition is remembrance, where the people we have visited tell the stories of their families in the town. Since the very beginning, a large part of our focus was on research and curatorial work for exhibition. It is still a very important task, but for some time now we have started to add an additional perspective, which is education, because all of us believe that museums should be places of learning, inspiration, dialogue, fun, research, and connection. And we want to become a space for a dialogue about the future and about the past. We want to be a platform where we can discuss the various questions related to our work. I invite you to follow our work, visit us, and today ask me any questions which might bothering you. And I'm looking forward to seeing you in Šeduva. Thank you very much.
Hello, everybody. My name is Sergei Kanovich. I'm a founder of Litvak Symmetry Catalog Matseva, the NGO, and the project manager of Lost Shtetl, the project which was presented by Milda. Before, I'm very pleased and honored to have an opportunity to introduce you by a few words into what we are doing. I appreciate a lot the organization by Lithuanian Embassy in South Africa, by incoming ambassador, a true friend of Jewish topic in Lithuania, Dainius Junevičius, and his team. And I also appreciate a link, which is a live link between the communities, Litvak communities in Lithuania and South Africa, represented by Faina Kukliansky, the chair of Lithuanian Jewish community. I think it is an important link. I'll try to walk you briefly through the project, which is running already for about 9 years. That is Litvak Symmetry Catalog Matseva. Matseva stands for the tombstone in Hebrew. It started as an initiative of a few volunteers who dedicated their time, their private time, for trying to preserve what is still remains to be preserved from the cemeteries, Jewish cemeteries in Lithuania. So people would dedicate their holiday time, their weekend time to come over to the cemeteries, to try to clean them from the overgrowth, to try to document them and map. And once we have seen the magnitude of I am not afraid to use the word, a disaster of the public common memory of the Jewish cemeteries we found at the time, mostly in oblivion, overgrown, some of them even privatized without any possibility to enter. Once we have seen the magnitude of and the speed with which this oblivion is spreading and eating away the last witnesses basically of Jewish life, because cemetery is absolutely integral part of Jewish life circle. It's not only the house of the dead, it's the house of our memory. And as a house of our memory, it looked very, very poorly. So what we decided to do with our little facilities and little force which we had is to try to preserve them at least in a virtual manner, meaning that maybe I'm going too fast. So this is short, basically a picture of the situation of the Jewish cemeteries in Lithuania. Out of 220 Jewish communities, there were about 200 cemeteries scattered all around Lithuania, and still today there are about 150 which can be found. We have documented over 40 of them, and I'll explain a bit later what the documentation basically means. As I said, the cemeteries largely were in a very poor state. So our goals are rather simple. We collect, we catalog, and we make it public, the whereabouts, status, description, short historical information about the Jewish cemeteries in Lithuania. Our volunteers, they have a task to photograph, to clean wherever is possible, to map and photograph. And once we have done it, volunteers, again, translators, which we are having a big lack of translators of the tombstones. We make translations of the legible inscriptions from gravestones, and we post them, this information on our website. And some people were able to find even their closed ones. People from Australia, they found their closed ones in Shtetl of Merkinė. I can go on and on. So we had some very moving findings as a result. I would like also to take this opportunity, because I've seen that one of our great volunteers and translator, without whom this work would not be looking the way it looks, Lara Lampert, is here. So really, we are very grateful to her input. So this is basically what Maceva is doing since 2011. Recently, we have introduced, because we have seen that people are very much interested in their genealogy, and many people in many social groups are looking in all kinds of ways in trying to find any documents related to their far relatives in Lithuania, Jewish relatives. So we have introduced a service of genealogical research, which we are offering to the public. So this is more or less what you will find on our website once you will go there. So as I said, we have documented about 40 cemeteries, and whenever we can read the Maceva, the tombstone, we will translate it, and the person will not disappear with overgrowth, with oblivion, and at least we try to preserve it in a virtual way. I think, as I said previously, the cemeteries, the Jewish cemeteries in Lithuania, contrary to other signs of Jewish presence in Lithuania, like synagogues, they are there, and they are significant. They have significant meaning in terms of heritage and in terms of a common memory. And I think that they, along with the killing sites, with the murder sites, they deserve much greater attention by the state. They deserve simply much bigger respect than they enjoy currently. I have to say that in the years, the situation slightly improved. It's not the way it was. I have to also stress that most of our volunteers are non-Jewish. We have annual annual meetings in summer, which are kind of an international camp where people from different countries are coming to help to clean a cemetery of a choice of that year. So just for your information, if the situation allows, we are intending to clean and document Žagarė cemetery in coming summer. So transcriptions I already have mentioned, and epitaphs. It's also important that the people who are working with us, we explain the culture, the religious aspects of Jewish life and burial as an integral part of it, and the tradition of writing on matseva, what is written, why it is written, what is shown. So these are the few examples of the volunteers working in the cemeteries. Cemetery mapping, genealogical research I have mentioned. And if you're in Lithuania, please do visit the Jewish cemetery. Please get in touch with us. We may help you to make a link with the shtetl of your interest and with the cemetery of your interest. And I would like to end my short presentation with a link, actually the bridge to the previous presentation made by Milda. Matseva, unlike Lost Shtetl, is not dealing with material preservation or commemoration. We are dealing with virtual. While Lost Shtetl is doing really, I'm not afraid to say that, monumental work of commemorating the lost community, making a link and showing to the world what has been lost as a result of the Holocaust. And you, basically the communities, the Litvak communities, which are still intact in one of the other form in South Africa, you are true proof of how the decision made by your great grandparents, great grandparents, basically saved the life, and you are the proof of what has been lost as a result of the Holocaust in Lithuania. And the commemoration of the Šeduva, as Milda said, is kind of a symbolic, based on Šeduva's story. We are intending to commemorate all the communities which have been lost. And to summarize, I would like also to take this opportunity and to thank our sponsors who are working very hard to allow us to do the work which we are doing on a daily basis. We hope to see you all in 2023 opening in late spring. And thank you for your attention. And we hope to take your questions now.
Okay, everybody. Thank you, Sergey. Thank you, Milda. I know you both well. The South African Jewish Museum and the Lost Shtetl Museum have already built a very strong relationship, and I very much look forward to being there in 2023 on your opening day, and keeping the promise I made to you a while back. So folks, we are available for questions and answers. I ask if you could just please put them into the chat window, and also when you ask questions, please put the name of the person that you are directing them towards. It's myself and Milda and Sergey and Faina are all available to answer your questions. I see we have one here from Grant Garshin. His question to the ambassador, but I don't believe the ambassador is with us. It was a pre-recorded message. But maybe Sergey or Milda, you could perhaps help over here. He asks, how does the government of Lithuania reconcile the monuments for Jewish victims alongside your monuments for the murderers of Jews? I think, and of course, those of you that are watching on Facebook, you can put your questions into the Facebook comments as well. They'll be transferred over to Zoom, where we'll be able to put them to the speakers. So I can't see any questions coming up right now, but I must really underscore the importance of the work that Milda and Sergey have been doing. It really is an important work that is keeping our heritage and our history alive. Okay, we have a question from Julian. How many Jews are left in Lithuania, and are there any Jews that have returned to live in Lithuania? Faina, maybe you can answer that.
Yeah, it's very difficult to answer because we do not have any fixed membership, but we think that it is about 5,000 Jews. And from my experience, because as you know, I work a lot with the citizenship, with the restitution of the property rights. So I'm working a lot on the people who lives abroad, South Africa included. So from all my clients, as far as I know, only one family moved from South Africa to Lithuania. The whole family, children and parents. And it is much more often talking about Western Europe or United States, but from South Africa, I do not have even a lot of clients who are coming to visit us.
Thank you, Faina. There is another question for you, Faina. Ephraim asks if you can please update us on the issue of the new convention center planned on the site of the old Jewish cemetery.
If he asks me, I do not know what shall I update now. I know that a group of the people applied to the court opposing the restoration of the center. But
perhaps the people who don't know the background, maybe you could just tell us what
yeah,
they're referring to.
Yes, it was a cemetery which was closed, I think, in the end of 19th century. A lot of remains from this cemetery were moved to another cemetery in Vilnius, Solando Cemetery, included Gaon's remains. Unfortunately, during the Soviet time, all the cemetery was destroyed, and it was built a convention center there, Sport Palace, as we called. By the way, the architect of this, he was Jewish, very prominent architect. Now the situation is that it is a plot of land which was investigated by the Rabbonim, rabbis from UK, who are responsible for the preservation of cemeteries in all the Europe, and under the building, which has basement 8.5 meter, there are no remains at all. Perhaps there are some remains in the territory of the plot of the land, but we did not find it. That's what we found during the excavations or during the researches. Everything is removed to another cemetery, which is working cemetery, a Jewish cemetery in Vilnius, and was buried. And we, Jewish community, even built a monument for this in memory of these people. So today, the situation is that we have the court case. Some of people who oppose the reconstruction of the center, applying to the court, asking to forbid any works on the land of cemetery. However, I can see that in some plans which public available to our knowledge to see, you can see that in the future plans is that the building still stands. So really, I can't tell what is the exactly situation today and what the government is doing, because the Lithuanian Jewish community is not too much involved in all this process. It is action of the government, and all the works has been done by the supervision of the rabbis who are specialists in this field. So we'll see what will be the outcome of all these court cases and so on. But one thing what I can assure that these pictures which were shared in all the world, that the cemetery, the gravestones are standing and somebody is going to destroy it, it's really fake news. There are no gravestones in this place. It is just a field with grass. And municipality is doing a very nice project on the shore of the river in the commemoration of this of the former cemetery, as well as according to the plans in the convention center should be also a place for the commemoration as a small museum, which was dedicated to the people who were buried in this place. So this is what I can tell. Maybe somebody will tell you another story, but I think that I'm good informed about that, what's going on in my city.
Thank you, Faina. The next question is for you, Sergey. It's from Nesia, and she wants to know, you mentioned Mirkin or Mirkina, and she wants to know what the situation is there.
Actually, Merkina was one of the first cemeteries which were taken care of by Matseva. That was about 8 years ago. It was cleaned. It is documented. It is well documented. So this is what I can say about Merkina. I can also add that the local cultural museum of the local cultural museum, I guess, or whatever it's called in Merkina, they're taking great initiative in marking Jewish buildings, and they're also doing some local research work locally. So the things are there in comparison to some other places are better than in the other places.
Thanks, Sergey. The next question is from Rochelle, and I don't know whether it's for you, Sergey, or for you, Milda, but she asks, are the Lithuanian schools and universities involved in the project? And do the students learn about it as they do volunteer work or work as researchers?
For the project which is related to Matseva, it's mainly students. There is a lot of interest from local schools. I forgot to mention that basically the Lost Shtetl project, it takes its roots from Matseva, because basically the first goal, the initial goal of Lost Shtetl donors was to take care of the cemetery in Šeduva and to take care of the killing sites, the free killing sites. The donors just came across Maceva, what Maceva have been doing, and this is how basically we got onto Šeduva project. And Milda maybe can elaborate in terms of students and educational stuff about Lost Shtetl.
My short answer here can be very short. We do accept interns from university. We can't, it's not massive. Just we can't accept at the moment lots of people. I hope that it will be very popular when we open the museum. But for now, we do interns. We do have interns.
This is a following question to that, Milda, from David. You mentioned the cooperation of the local community. Can you expand a little bit about that and tell us what the local community around Šeduva think of the museum and how they're anticipating it?
Well, no, they're waiting for us to open. They are our they really excited and really supports us, and opens their doors what they can share. So it's a good cooperation, I would say.
It's also part of the question which relates to the non-Jewish life in the museum. So we're going to show the relations between Jews and Gentiles. So in that form, yes, but not separately, not as a separate standalone topic, only in relationship of interrelations between the Jews and Gentiles in the town.
Yeah, I just could add that the Jews didn't, as Lithuanians in the town, didn't live isolated, so they interacted, and it's important for us to show. And it's not only Jews and Lithuanians; there are other minorities as well. So we include them as well in the exhibition.
Thanks. Marilyn asks, and I assume this is for you, Sergey. I don't know if I can pronounce this. Jakulytė-Vasil, if that makes sense. Thank you. Cemetery has very few visible gravestones, and she wants to know whether it will be part of your program to upgrade and restore the cemeteries. If there are any plans for that.
We are not dealing with cemetery restoration in material way. We can only help for some people to connect if they want to, but we are very small. Maceva is a very small organization, and it really does only virtual work. Now, we have a list, we know the database. We basically visited almost every cemetery in Lithuania. So wherever there is only the name, and there is only one stone, we know it, and there's nothing we can do. There were, for very long time, and for you, I can elaborate on that. Maybe Dainius can elaborate on that. The previous government and the government before the previous government, they had lots of ideas of fencing the cemeteries, of making proper signage at the cemeteries. Normally, it didn't go further than declarations, unfortunately. And I want to stress out that legally, the cemeteries are under local authority responsibility. The local authorities are responsible for the well-being of the cemeteries. Unfortunately, in some cases, people, they don't care. But in many cases, young people, the younger generation, also with our help, they start to show interest in what it is, what these stones are all about, why they are neglected, who these people were. So to put it short, the further you go from the big cities into smaller cities, the situation is better. The bigger city is, the bigger problems are.
I want to add about Šiauliai Cemetery. It did not survive at all. Šiauliai Old Cemetery does not exist. And if you can see few gravestones, they are removed to the new cemetery where the Jewish side has a small piece of land. But also speaking about that, what Sergei told, there are 250 cemeteries in Lithuania. The municipalities has an obligation according to the law to measure, to make the fence and to register it in the tabu, as you call it, in the register center. Unfortunately, not. I don't think that more than 50% has the fences and have the territories which are registered as a plot of land which has to be registered. And this is the responsibility of all of us. I understand that it should be done by the municipalities, but we have to push all the time, and we are not running away from this issue. We are doing all what we can to do. We have 250 cemeteries and 250 mass murdering places. All of them has to be preserved. It's a very big job.
Thank you, Fiona. I know we're facing a similar problem here in South Africa. The changing demographics of the community has meant that there are many, many Jewish cemeteries in towns where there are no longer any Jewish people living. And the United Orthodox Synagogues and the Cemeteries Board are doing an excellent job of maintaining these cemeteries, but it is an ongoing and never-ending task. And I think it is further hampered by yourselves in Lithuania having to deal with these cemeteries where for 50 years or more they went completely unmaintained. Milda and Sergei, there's a question here from Sue who asks, if you visit the museum in Šeduva, will you be able to see and place the families that lived in Šeduva and be able to see where their houses were and whether or not any of these houses are still standing?
We are working, finding the houses and locating where people lived, on the map. It's still ongoing work. We are planning to show what we found in our exhibition, and we didn't discuss yet, and I'm not sure if we will do that or not yet, to market in a town itself. Maybe it might be like an app or so, but it's not. I'm not sure yet. But what we will make for sure, it's some of addresses and people living in Šeduva you will find in the museum.
Yeah, I only can add that we most probably, as Milda said, we're going to make it in a mobile application. So we're not going to mark the houses physically, but the question is kind of striking. The houses are still there, most of them. The people are gone. So, and that is the situation in most of the shtetls. So we're gonna do something about it, but not physically on the houses, on the private properties, but on the mobile application, yes.
Thank you, everyone. I think we've come to the end of the questions. I very much enjoyed this. And I believe we'll have a sort of closing remarks from the Lithuanian Embassy here in South Africa. Quickly, before we go, there's a question from Joel Pollock, very important. How can people donate to these projects?
I will take I'll take this question. Milda is smiling. Matseva is heavily underfunded project, and we really appreciate every penny donated because it allows us to continue the work. I have to tell you that, for instance, in terms of translations, we have a backlog of about 3,000 matsevas to be translated, and we are not able to do that because we are lacking funds. So if you go on the website, which I can type again into the message box, or probably you can see it on the announcement of this conversation. You're welcome to make a donation via PayPal or else. The link is there. As far as Šeduva Jewish Foundation is concerned, our donors appreciate a lot every offer of donation, but so far they're working very hard, as I said, and they're able to support our work without need of any external additional support. At the same time, I encourage everybody to take this opportunity. Faina is here. By the way, both of our organizations, Matseva and Šeduva Jewish Foundation, are members of the Jewish community of Lithuania. I encourage everybody who is willing to donate to the shtetl of his interest to do it also with the help of Jewish community. It's there to help you out, to get connected to proper people locally. If you want to fix a tombstone, if you want to put a mark, if it's something that is important for you. But far and foremost, it is natural when you are being Jewish, when you're Litvak, to care of the heritage of your forefathers. But I'll take this opportunity also to encourage the state to take care of our common history as well. I mean, we're gonna do it this way or the other, but we should be helped because we are simply diminishing. We are very, very little in numbers. Thank
you. Thank you, everyone. And I must agree with your words there at the end there, Sergey. I know in South Africa, but I imagine certainly in Lithuania as well, without the support of a government, it's very hard to maintain non-profit organizations and projects, and this is exceptionally important work. And of great interest to us surviving Litvaks in the diaspora. Folks, I think we're going to end it over there. Thank you very much for joining us on behalf of the South African Jewish Museum and the Embassy of Lithuania in South Africa, the Lost Shtetl Museum, and the Cemeteries Project. I truly appreciate you joining us for tonight, and please stay safe. Please donate. As Sergey said, every dollar, every rand goes a long way. And have a good evening, everybody. Thank you very much.
Thanks, everybody. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
So I think it's just one moment left. Dear ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much to everyone for being here with us in this event dedicated to commemorate the year of the Vilna Gaon and of the history of the Jews of Lithuania and South Africa that virtually gathered such a wonderful audience from many countries around the globe. Special thanks to the Lithuanian ambassador designate Dainius Junevičius and Mrs. Faina Kuklansky, the chairwoman of the Lithuanian Jewish community, for their welcoming speeches. My sincere thanks to Mr. Gavin Morris for his presentation and moderation of this event, and to the distinguished speakers, Mrs. Milda Jakulytė-Vasil and Mr. Sergey Kanovich, for your participation and exchange of your expert opinions. My sincere thanks goes to Joseph and his fast-focused technical team for the technical support to make this online event happen. And I use this opportunity to invite all of you to our embassy's third event, the Yiddish Songs Concert from the Heart of Vilna, which is back on track and will be broadcasted on the 7th of December at 7 p.m. South Africa Standard Time. Follow our embassy's Facebook and website for the update. Thank you